there, it's Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today we are going to be creating some pretty much completely washi tape cards. Now, I know you all, most of you, in fact, have a stash of washi tape, and I have a fun way today of using up some of that washi tape that we have in our stash. Now, I have picked out this little collection of kind of vintagey, old, there's some maps, there's some tickets, there's some alphabet, there's some numbers, those are the kind of things that I was sort of playing to find. Now, some of my washi tapes are actually have the kind of backing on them, so the release paper on them, so they're not sticky like this. They have a separate release paper on them, so I've picked out some of those to use, so when I can chop off a piece like this and put it to the side, you know that it still has the backing on. Now, this one is some maps, and it is several different maps put together, so I'm sort of separating them where the different maps meet, but you'll see what I'm going to do in a minute, and we're going to kind of everything together to make it reminds me of the retiform technique, where you section off different pieces of your card and stamp different kind of pictures or different items. But this one we are going to use kind of washi tape with it. So washi tape through and through, everything is going to be washi tape. Of course, if you don't have washi tape, you could definitely do this with cardstock, you could do this with paper pads, anything, and you are just able to glue it down. I'm just using up the washi tape simply because I have it, and it's a reminder to myself that I invested in these items and I need to make sure I keep using them, because even though I have had some of my washi tapes for many years, I'm sure they will not last forever. So I'm going to start by putting down some of the kind of largest ones and then filling it in with these smaller details. Now, these are not all a perfect match to each other. They did not all come in a set. If any of them are still available, I will link them down below, but honestly, you could go with any theme for yours as well. It doesn't have to be this kind of vintagey style that I am going for. This is just what I felt like to create a background today. I have someone in mind who this card is for. This is going to end up being a birthday card. Now, these ones here, again, these have the release paper on them. These are little ticket stubs. I know some of the washi tapes are a little bit hard to see what is the actual pictures on them and things, but it really doesn't matter. And you can see that I just layer them over top. I'm sort of piecing them together a little bit kind of mosaic-y, a little bit. It's like playing Tetris, really, filling in all of the gaps. So as I said, take what you have. If you don't have paper pads, and some paper pads have individual images, and you could do some fussy cutting to cut those out. You could also look into some magazines. You could cut out some of those images, and you could do the strips at the end using just plain cardstock. You could print some images. You could, I mean, there's so many different options that if you don't have washi tapes, this is purely just one example and one kind of background option. Now, you could use washi tapes, but you could use any sort of pictures, any sort of theme. You could have it bright and cheerful and crazy. This one is definitely more muted and vintagey and browns and tan tones that I'm going for today. But I just layer these up. As I said, these are not all from the same set. They don't all match perfectly, but in the end, I think they end up matching pretty okay. I just kind of put them together, and it's one of those things where sometimes it's best not to think too much. It's better to just kind of pop them down, see how you go. You can always layer them up. And I know with some washi tapes that they don't all have the same stick ability. So some of them, I know that you know, they might start peeling up at the edges, or they may not even stick very well to begin with if you're worried about the longevity of your card. At about this point, when you are finished either each layer, or you could just do it at the very end, you could go over this with a layer of like a matte medium or a glue or a Mod Podge or something like that to seal it all in. If you were worried about the washi tape coming up and the longevity, I have not had this problem, and in fact I do have a whole other video that is made using cards using completely washi tape to make the cards. So that was a very popular video, and if I can remember, I will link that one down below in the description box down below. But I have not had any problems, and I still have one of those cards, and I would hesitate to guess, but I would say it would be more than a year ago that I created that card, and the edges have still not come up or lifted with the washi tape. But if you were worried about it, then I would definitely seal it in with something, and then that will just eliminate that worry altogether. Now, I have some of this blue polka dot, it's sort of a turquoisey color, I guess, washi tape. Now, this is not the right width for what I need. Ideally, in my little stash, I would have had like a 1/4 inch maybe. I could have done a 1/2 inch, but preferably 1/4 inch wide washi tape that was sort of this color. I didn't have it, so I'm going to make do, and I ended up having, I think this is a 1/2 inch perhaps, and I'm just cutting this with my scissors, with my long bladed scissors, my Tim Holtz. I think they are the 9.5 inch ones. And then I just have my little fussy cutting scissors, my little cutter bees, and they're beside me for any little bits that I want to match up. Now, this is not perfect. The widths are not all exactly the same, but basically I'm kind of going around each of the pictures or the washi tapes that I popped down, and I am just highlighting them with a little border using the blue washi tape. I just wanted something that would contrast nicely with the vintage browns and tan tones in the background, so that's why I went with the blue. I'm also a big fan of this kind of turquoisey blue. I am a blues girl. That's definitely my favorite color, so I always lean towards that, and sometimes I have to fight that and remind myself that that's not everybody's favorite. But for this one, it just seemed to work out, and you can see how I am creating all of these little sections that are going to create the background of this card. Now, I will tell you that this was not super quick, but it also didn't take me that long at all. I mean, I've had to cut very little footage out of this, and I was having a ball. I wanted to keep going and going and going with this. I'm not going to lie. I loved this technique. So now, just to get an idea of where I'm at, I'm going to trim off all the edges. Yes, you could bend these around the back, but for me, I prefer to trim. I prefer to keep it neat and tidy, and not too much bulk, because of the next step that we are going to do. Now, actually, there is still some white up the top right-hand corner there that I didn't cover in all with washi tape, but that's because I knew I was going to be doing this step where I'm going to take the Tim Holtz trimmer and trim off just a little bit to make it so that there will be a border around it when I pop it on the card base. And then I was going to leave this bare, but I actually don't like the edges like this. I want them to be the same. So I am going to use, again, that same washi tape, and just, I don't particularly enjoy measuring, so I'm just eyeballing the right sort of border around here that I want, which is actually a very, very slim border, and I will end up tucking most of this behind the back there, just so that it stays in place, because I'm adding a really, really thin strip around the outside. I just think this finishes it off. It makes it all kind of match, and it all brings it all together with having the border be the same. Now, these bits that weren't going to stick down, I'm just going to pop these out. No point having bits that are going to be not sticking down when I pop these down onto a card base. But I can fold these all behind tightly, and that gives me a really slim little border around the outside, and looks much more finished in my opinion. At this point, I decided I was really getting into this kind of card. So I picked out some of these vintagey little scrapbook pieces of paper that I have. Now, I wanted one that was going to match the background, so I've picked this piece here, which is kind of, which is actually one of the sheets, but I'm just going to turn it over because I want that background color for the background. And I'm going to choose out all of the letters that are going to spell out the words happy birthday. So this is something that I used to do right from when I was in primary school, and we used to go through magazines and cut out these to make titles for projects, or even our names when we were naming things, all sorts of things, even on our books before my mum would put a book cover on them, all those sorts of things. So this is what this brought back memories of. But I also had a quick look through my stamps, and I definitely didn't have a font or something that was going to match the kind of vintagey background that I wanted. I don't have the individual letters. I just didn't have the right stamp. So I thought, why not go for gold? I was really enjoying this process, and I enjoyed to do this as well. And so I just sort of knew that I would sacrifice a couple of those pieces of scrapbook paper And I guess it's not even sacrificing them if I was really enjoying them and using them up. So there are multiples of each one. So that also made my little heart rest. And I knew that I was using them and I really enjoyed this process. So if this brings back memories for you, I hope that they're good memories and that you enjoyed it. But I really love this. So I'm piecing these together using a little bit of the matte medium. That's the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish. That's what's inside this little glue bottle. And I just know that everything is going to stay in place once I have these glued down with this. I am using a wax pencil. This is, I think, for nail art. It is very cheap and cheerful. I think I bought these for 50 cents a pencil maybe. And they're just a wax pencil that is the perfect amount to pick these up. Now at the moment you can see some of the glue in the background on the letters where I moved them around where I wanted them to go. But the good news is that as this dries, it is going to become completely clear and leave no shine or sheen or anything like that. Now I prefer to leave my mistakes or my changes of mind in these videos so that you can see that I do exactly the same as you do. Even though I'm filming, I usually have the ability to edit out some of these things. I thought I wanted there to be a white border around my happy birthday, so I popped this down onto a scrap piece of cardstock. Then I made sure that I left a tiny little border around the whole thing. I cut it out. I didn't like it, so I changed my mind straight away. I decided that I wanted this actually to match everything else, and so again I'm going to come back with the same blue washi tape and I'm going to go around the edges, and that's okay to change our mind. And actually it gave me a bit more space that I could adhere down that washi tape, so maybe I just needed to do that anyhow. So that's okay. Now I'm going to do the same technique where I fold this pretty much around the back and just cut out the little corners where it's not going to stick. And you can also cut these off if that's what you prefer as well. So I can cut off the edges, the sides, and that is looking good again. I think that you could hardly tell that this is washi tape. I really enjoyed this project. So let me know some of the things that you do with your washi tape. Now that we kind of, it used to be very popular a few years ago, I think, and then maybe as the popularity wanes, I know things go in cycles and they come back, and no doubt washi tape will come back again and we'll all have our stashes ready to go. But let me know some of your favorite techniques for using washi tape in your card making. This one I certainly had so much fun with, and I'm not sure that I'll be able to link all of the different washi tapes down below. I will do my best to link anything, but ideally you just use what you have. So I'm sure that you have something in your stash that you can make this kind of look, this background work for. Down below this video, I will also have a link to the Buy Me a Coffee website. That is where that you can support me as a card maker to create more of these videos, and I release these every second day for you. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.